Stefan just came in, so you can talk to him.
Oh, I don't want to talk to that guy. Well, thank you, Stefan, for coming in. I appreciate that. It's my fault you're here because I wanted to have this discussion at the board meeting just to give everybody an opportunity to talk about it. But I think it should be a pretty quick conversation. So should we get started?
Just give me about 10 seconds here.
All right, just let me know.
All right, young man, you should be live and ready.
All right, thank you, everybody. I'd like to call the August 5th, 2024 Franklin Township Board of Supervisors workshop meeting to order at 7 p.m. In attendance from myself, Chairman David Gerstenhaber, Vice Chair Donna D., and Supervisors Don Dowling and Betsy Odgers. Jim Johnson will be joining us momentarily. Also in attendance are Operations Manager Jeff Eastburn, and I think, is that Melissa online?
Yes.
Sure.
Yep.
That is Melissa. Okay, and Melissa Ortega. And I don't believe there are any members of the public with us tonight. Not true. We have one. We have Stefan Torres. So please, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, looks like we got Franklin Township froze. Guy, is the image frozen for you as well?
No, I can see everybody, and they're all moving.
Oh boy. Oh, now we go. Here we go. You're back. All right. Now let's move to our public comments. Public comment may include anything related to tonight's agenda. Commenters must state your name, whether you're a resident of the township or a non-resident taxpayer in the township. If you don't identify yourself, your comments will not be included in the official minutes. Do we have any public comment? Okay, not hearing any. Let's move on to our first agenda item. We have our upcoming Fall Festival in September. Stefan Torres, who is one of the organizers of the event, has proposed to allow wine and beer sales at the event, and so he's come in to talk a little bit about his proposal, and then the board will just ask any questions they may have, and then from there we can either approve or not. I don't believe it requires a motion. This will just be this should be an okay change. Hey, welcome, Jim. Stefan?
Hello, everybody. Just one minor edification regarding just beer. I'm sorry, just wine, no beer. Last year, we had Paradox Vineyards at our fall festival, and they provided samples, and they also had you could buy a bottle, and we asked that that nobody in the public open it at the park, and that was very successful. And considering all the other surrounding events that go on, whether it be Longwood Gardens, Wine and Jazz, which is unfortunately the same day as our event. New Garden Township has their beer and blues every last whatever day of the month, each month. They also have the New Garden Township air show, which is very successful. I thought it'd be we as a board, as a group, thought it'd be good to have take what we had last year, but slightly expand it to include the ability for people to buy a glass of wine and walk around. This is not a type of event that there should be any issues, and it's only wine. Paradox wants to do it, and we found out probably a week and a half ago, that 1723 also wants to be able to be involved in this. The ability to give samples, sell a bottle of wine, which we did last year, and also have the ability to sell a glass of wine. Keeping in mind that both 1723 and Paradox Vineyards are two of the three, maybe four wineries in our township. So we're keeping it, within our township. We're not getting outside beer microbrews or any of that stuff. Yeah, I think it's I'll leave it at that because I know you all have seen the letter that we wrote probably a couple of weeks ago. It is a farming activity. So I just think it would be, a nice little addition to our event without going overboard necessarily. And yeah, that's all I have really.
Okay.
If you have any questions or any thoughts, whatever, please let me know.
Yeah, thanks, Stefan. So this came to the board a couple weeks ago, and I just thought it might be, it's not a major decision, I don't think, but I wanted to give the board an opportunity to make a comment just because it's a change from, I think, what we officially said last year. I can't remember if we actually had this discussion last year or not. So I guess I'll open it to the board if there's any questions or comments or concerns about this.
Yes, so no concerns. And more, I know Jeff has done some work with both our solicitor, with the police, and also with the insurance company to just do some due diligence. So I thought it would be nice to get it on the record.
Correct.
That was the feedback that you've gotten.
Guy Donatelli has been extremely helpful. Talked to Andrew D. Prospero and the state police. As long as we get a copy of their license to serve, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
And then as long as we get a certificate of insurance specifically listing Franklin Township, the Board of Supervisors, and its employees as additional insureds, we're fine.
Okay.
So they're fine with it, and you can't get a blessing from the state police other than the state police felt it would be a nice event for the community.
Two questions. The state police said as long as we have our permits too, do we have to get a permit?
No, we just have to have a copy of the vineyard's license to serve.
Okay.
So I've been told by both of them that's easy to copy and hand over, and that both are up to date.
Okay.
We also have to be on the supervisors and township employees.
Yeah. He just said that.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. Got that covered. So if the board thinks this is something they want to do, then, we would get on the horn tomorrow to both of them to get that paperwork in hand.
And Stefan, you talked to the wineries, it's only going to be plastic, no glass, right?
Yeah, I didn't, but I'll make sure.
Okay. Yeah, the only other comment I'll have is the last 2 years at the air show, the longest line at the tent was at the beer tent. So it should be good for our tent.
Great.
Well, and I just wanted to say that I'm on the committee for the Fall Festival, and I just feel that from 12 to 5 is an afternoon event. So I think we're pretty safe in saying it's not a real drinking time of the day. And also that these two wineries are in our township and they do lots of events and lots of people know them. And it's a very goodwill gesture to include them in this particular event.
So one of the questions that I had, there was a stipulation last year that you could buy a bottle but not open it. Is that going to be maintained this year, that you can buy bottles and not open them? Or can someone who maybe buys a bottle would be able to open it?
I think
during the event?
we should stick with buying a bottle and not have them open it at the event.
Okay.
And it might even end earlier than 5 o'clock. So it's just an afternoon event. So I don't see anybody, drinking a whole bottle of wine, but.
Yeah. Where does go ahead.
And Dave, that's a request, right? I mean, if we see somebody with an open bottle, we're not going to kick them out or anything, right? I mean, what do we?
So I don't know where, that's something we need to think about, right? So,
right.
I mean, I don't anticipate any of these issues, but there's always a fringe case that, what do you do if? And I suppose, I don't know if you'd kick someone out because they're walking around with an open bottle of wine in their hands. I don't think that's going to happen. But it might be a request just to say, hey, look, we're going to be selling glasses, but we don't want you to crack open a bottle and get drunk in the afternoon at our event, because the volume of liquor, alcohol is different. I'm just thinking out loud. Like, what do we want to do? Do we want to allow them to open bottles? If not,
I think we just mentioned that it's not what we want, and then
Yes.
leave it up to them.
yeah.
I have a question. What about somebody bringing in a 6-pack of beer?
No, I don't think that's allowed. This is kind of that's a good question. This isn't a drinking event. You're not supposed to
Right.
come in. Like, the wine should come from the vendor, and maybe we limit it to the 2 glasses. You get 2 tickets and you can buy 2, because you bring up another good point. It's like, Guy, I saw you went off mute. I'm not gonna.
I have 2 comments. First of all, it was always my understanding, and we should make it clear to the 2 wineries, that there isn't bottle service. In other words, someone's not going to walk up and get a bottle and open it and get 4 cups and go, or 4 plastic glasses and go over and have a and have a little meal. Number 1. Number 2, whether we served or permitted the service or sale of wine or not, I would take the position that on that facility, people cannot bring open containers of beer in to drink, irrespective of the wine by the glass issue. That I believe is a criminal offense, to walk around in public with an open container, and most of your patrons are not what I would call. I was there last year. They're not weekend warriors or people enjoying the atmosphere and the ability to buy a bottle or 2 from a local vendor. So those would be my only 2 comments.
Okay. So, we treat it like any other event. You don't bring in your own beer to a bar. You don't bring in your own beer to a stadium. So you can get your wine, your glasses of wine from the vendors. If you want to buy a bottle, the intention is that you consume it at home or not there. But to Jim's point, it's like, you can't. What are we going to do if they decide to open it? I don't know. I mean, that's a question about. We're not enforcers. We'll just have to use our best judgment if things, if something happens and we need to deal with it then.
I think the best way you can, not enforce is not the right word, but is to get to the vendors and say, look, glasses are given out when they buy a glass of wine. We're not giving out glasses along with the bottle. And I think that's about the best we can.
That's a good idea. And maybe just have them request, this is, I don't know what the right wording would be, but please, please open your bottles at home. They're not here. They're not to be drank here. We'll have to think about it. I don't know what we'll instruct the vendors to say, but okay.
They're the ones that are going to be the most vocal when they're selling it, right? So
Right.
they're the ones that have to promote it.
Yeah. It's like, I guess you could just say, hey, if you would like to drink a glass of wine here, please buy a glass. Of course, if you want to bring some wine home, you can buy a bottle. Easiest way.
Well, and anybody that's familiar with going to a winery and having a tasting, if they like something, then they can buy a bottle to take home.
Right.
So that's more of the way that it's usually handled anyway. So that's they can say it's a bottle to take home if you like it.
Okay.
Well, it'll be a learning experience, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. So here's another question. This is not a bar. We're not a bar. What kinds of liability do we have as a township if someone drinks a bunch of wine, drives home and knocks over a telephone pole or gets into a car accident? I know that oftentimes a bar can be held liable for over serving. Is the township on the hook, or does that go back to the vendors' insurance?
Yeah, I looked at this when we initially began discussing it, and what we're discussing is an issue which I call the Dram Shop Act. And you're not in the business of selling wine, beer, or alcohol. You're not a social host as that is defined in the law. You're not the seller of the wine. You're providing a venue in which someone else with a license, a licensee, has the obligation to control that. And I never say never, but I would say the risk of being held accountable for damage done by someone who over imbibes on your property is de minimis. It's minimal. And I was comfortable with the coverage provided by the licensees under the insurance riders. So I'm comfortable with it, Dave. I don't think there's much of a risk.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And just in addition, all the servers that work for wineries are supposed to be ramp certified. So they are it's up to them to notice if the person comes back 3 times, they're supposed to not serve them. So that's another fail safe that we have.
All right. Do we have any other comments or questions? Okay, well, so I think I'm okay with this. Should we all give the thumbs up or thumbs down? All right, there we go. All right, thank you, Stefan. Appreciate it.
Dave, I hate to interrupt, but Stefan brought something to my attention. Melissa's online. Was she trying? Melissa, were you trying to say something?
Melissa, you're on mute if you're trying to say something. Nope.
Okay.
All right. All right. Thanks, everybody. All right. So
can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear
So
you.
I was just going to point out most wineries, they don't chill their bottles. They only chill the bottles that are going to be served. All the bottles being sold will be warm.
Okay. Right. All right. Donna, I think you have the Lexington Point conversation.
We already voted.
All right. Dave was saying it looks like Lexington Point's up next.
And I get to make the introductions. See, I told you guys. I'm the ticket here. All right, so I just in the serious note, this township is moving into a new phase in our lives in terms of being responsible for a wastewater treatment plant. This has been being built for a number of years. I think like 20. It's been a long time. And so, in all seriousness, this is a big step for us. And that's why we brought you in here, just to ask some questions. I can tell you, I'm not an expert on wastewater treatment plants. So I may not always ask the best questions, but I just want to get a sense of who you are, how you work, how does that feel? And then we'll talk amongst ourselves and figure out what our next steps are. But this is a big step for us. And we want to make sure that we make the right choice, because we've never done this before. And we want to make sure we do it right. Okay. Dave, did you have a sense of how you wanted to do this? Did we turn it over to Stan and have him say something? Did we start asking questions? What do you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a series of questions, and maybe we could look at it this way. Maybe Stan, if you could talk a little bit about at a high level, who these operators are as businesses, and what you look for in an operator, and then what are the kinds of things they're going to be doing, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about your thoughts on who we have in the room now, and then the board can ask their questions. Does that make some sense?
Sure. Hopefully I hit the right button on this mic. I assume everybody can hear me.
Yep, you did.
Okay. Well, in Pennsylvania, to operate a wastewater treatment plant like this requires a licensed operator, licensed by Pennsylvania DEP. There's a number of training classes and a bunch of criteria to get that licensing. For the Lexington Point facility, one of the criteria of necessity, one of the criteria in an agreement between the township and the developer is that the developer propose a licensed operator for the facilities, which would ultimately be employed by the township, although initially it would be under control of the developer. The operator is responsible for a wide range of things, but their primary marching orders are looking at the DEP permit and saying, these are the things we have to check. These are the operations we have to maintain. This is the reporting we need to do. EEMA Services Group, I'm just going to call it EEMA, they had provided a proposal, or Keystone had provided a proposal of theirs. We had 2 rounds of reviews on that. The first time it came in, we had a number of questions, some additional information that we wanted to see. They did come back and answer all of those questions. Based upon, checking all the boxes for adequacy for operating the plant, they appear to be qualified to do the job. Did check references as well, got favorable feedback from 3 of the 4 references that they were able to provide. The 4th would just not return my call. But that is, in a nutshell, where we're here. The board is going to ultimately need to decide on selection of an operator. That's one of the pieces of the puzzle that will need to come together before the treatment plant can be started up. There's a number of other things, but that's one of the key things. And that's the only one of the key things that is presently on the board to think about.
Do you know why that 4th company didn't get back to you? Was it you, or is it?
No, it was a municipal authority where there's no full-time staff, and one of the chairpersons said they were left a message and they were trying to get back to me. I'm sure they're just busy. Yeah.
So Donna, do you want to just ask? I know you have a lot of questions that you want to get started.
Donna, your microphone. Okay. All right, great. All right. So my first question is, how many? And I don't know who. I guess the president, right? How many facilities? Maybe you guys should introduce yourselves. That's probably a good way to start. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll introduce myself first. I'm John Dean. I'm a project manager with EEMA O&M Services Group. I'll give you just a little bit. I've been in operations for over 15 years. I've operated plants from multi-million gallon a day plants down to very small plants in the thousands of gallons a day. I'm a process specialist and I oversee for EEMA all of our work in Chester County, Delaware County, Montgomery County, Berks County. So I oversee quite a few plants for EEMA. And then I'll turn it over to Pete.
Yeah, I'm Pete Lau. It's a German name, by the way. It's not hard. And I've been doing wastewater work for over 50 years. I've done a lot of process development. The process you have here is a new application, but it's using old techniques. The fixed film activated sludge system that they're using to get the nitrogen out has been around for 20, 30 years. I used to call it the ping pong ball process because the growth that purifies your water is in the little styrofoam material that floats around. So you have to know how to do it. I think when the people came in from Oregon for the training, Gary Espinoza said it was good to be training somebody that knew what he was talking about. And Sean was one of those. And we have 45 to 50 people, probably 25 full-time, 20 to 25 part-time, all licensed. As John said, we operate primarily in Southeast Pennsylvania, although we ended up getting the Poconos, and I last week signed a contract to operate the facility in Port Jervis. You know where that is. And it seemed like a lot of fun. Plus, the guy called me up and said he needed help, so we went there. We operate out here Yeah, yeah. And that's why we have the number of people and that's what John does. And like I said, that's what I do. We have, as he said, plans from, well, one of our clients is Halibut, which is a whole deal in itself. That plant happens to be in Arkansas. And I've had that contract for 25 years. It sort of followed me through two different companies.
How do you manage that? So you have other offices? I'm sorry, you have offices in Arkansas? I mean, how do you do?
The facility in Arkansas, have you ever been to Arkansas?
No.
County Road 1 in Arkansas goes by our plant, it's Stir.
So you're located here though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, our main office is in Elverson. We have 3 full-time employees in Arkansas to run that site. We do have some sites out of state as well. But primarily our work is in southeastern Pennsylvania. We have about 50 sites in southeastern Pennsylvania, facilities that we operate, whether they be wastewater plants, drinking water plants, pump stations, distribution stations. We handle all types of systems and facilities.
Thank you for the president. And then who's?
I'm Dave Cooks. I'm Dave Cooks. I'm with MGK Industries. We are actually the contractor that built the treatment plant.
Okay, yeah, because your name's not here. So okay, all right. So you're the ones who built it. Okay, and then.
I'm Mickey Thompson. I'm the Vice President of Land and In-House Counsel for Keystone Custom Homes.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so you're running. Okay, great.
Yes, thank you.
So let me go to my questions. So thank you for that. So then my first one, I think you started to answer it. How many facilities in all do you run?
Well, as John said, in fact, we're between 50 and 60 facilities. Some of them are rather large, 3 million gallons a day. Some of them are as small as 5,000 gallons a day. Yours is not the smallest facility we're at. And we do a bunch of pump stations for authorities that don't really have staff, and we operate the pump stations, and they pump their wastewater to a different municipality for treatment.
So just keep going. So that was 50 to 60. How many of them are drip fields or similar to what we have?
So right now, our biggest drip field client is East Brandywine.
Okay, and he gave you a good reference, so that was good.
Yeah,
Okay.
so East Brandywine has 3 facilities. 2 of them have drip disposal. One plant is solely drip disposal, which means that all of the treated water 100% goes back out to the drip field, which would be similar to you. The other East Brandywine plant has a unique system where I'd say about 85% of the water that we treat goes to a golf course lagoon, which they use that water to spray irrigate the golf course. Another 15% of the flow would go to drip disposal. Their average flow is around 200 to 225,000 gallons a day. So it's even though only about 15% goes to drip, it's still a good amount of flow. So over 20,000 gallons a day to drip.
So then my next question, once again, not an expert, so please, I apologize if the questions are stupid. But when I think of Lexington Point, I mean, and you guys, not all your houses are built yet, right? And I think, isn't it the more houses you have, the easier it is to manage this kind of wastewater treatment plant, because you have to make sure the bacteria have enough food to eat. Are you worried? I mean, I'm just thinking in general, taking over tomorrow, what are your concerns and how would you handle them?
So we discussed this very issue with the folks at Orweco. The design of the plant in that it continues to recirculate treated water, creating a biomass buildup on the mats. This plant was designed to work, I guess their original design was to work for maybe like a single house, and they've just upscaled it to accommodate the flow. So regardless of how many houses you have on the system, it will still be able to maintain a biology. We asked, what happens if there's not enough food? The answer we were given on the membranes is that the bacteria will self-scavenge, which means they'll pretty much eat themselves to keep staying alive.
They eat themselves to stay alive. So somebody lives. Is that what you're saying? No.
Survival of the fittest.
Yeah. So your bacteria are consumed by larger organisms, protozoa, and things like that. And then all this is happening on those materials. So it's constantly recirculating the water around them to keep them alive and to keep them oxygenated. And it shouldn't be an issue to start it with lower flow than full build out. The one thing I will say is that your initial startup, some things are not going to be the same as full build out. You may not have to add as much alkalinity adjustment product or as much extra nitrogen source as you would when all the homes are online. So some initial startup costs, some initial startup things will be different from an operations perspective, but biologically with just a few homes, it should work.
That it doesn't scare you. You think you can manage this. It's like you're not worried about the fact that you have a few homes, and when you get to the total homes, it may get easier, right? Or you'll new
plants are normally happier when they have not, I would say 100% loading, but maybe in the 75 to 80% loading range. Plants seem to be pretty happy, and I think that's the ultimate goal.
That's what Lexington Point wants anyways, right? You want to get as many houses as you can. All right, so let me just move on to my next one. So if you could, how does it work? And I am disappointed Sean isn't here. Maybe someday we'll get to meet him. But how would this work? Like, so Sean, is it Sean who will come to the plant every day? I mean, just start from there. What does Sean do? What does TJ do? What do you do? And what does the rest of your group do? And maybe you only call them in if there's a problem, but just if you could just explain that, how you guys interact with each other.
What a typical day is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So Sean has a routine, and Lexington Point will fit into his schedule. So you would see Sean coming to the plant roughly around the same times every day. It depends, if he runs into an issue at another site, but around the same time, Sean will come in every day. Normally what we've trained our operators to do is the first thing we do is we take a look around the plant just to make sure everything is looking normal. There's nothing that sounds strange or smells strange or looks strange, process wise. Then we usually create what we call a daily sheet. And this would be a sheet that Sean would take around the plant with him. A checklist. Yeah. And it's also a place where we record data. So it's where we record the hours that a pump ran, how many hours a blower ran for, what was the flow from the previous day. We do all these calculations, which gives us a baseline to tell if down the road something goes wrong. If something runs an hour every day and then you come in the next day and it didn't run at all, or it ran 5 hours, it's a way to troubleshoot. So we have a daily sheet. So we go around and we look at the plant and we try to just gather as much data as the plant will give us that we can get from it, because you never know what could be useful in the future. So we gather all this data. After that, normally what we do is we'll draw samples. So we'll take a sample of the influent and the effluent, and then we'll do some testing. We'll test for things like pH, dissolved oxygen, alkalinity.
So you can do testing on the plant. You don't have to send this out. You do the testing right then.
Correct. So there's daily testing that's required by your NPDES permit, which would be things like, for most plants in Pennsylvania, would be things like pH, DO. If you use chlorine to disinfect, a chlorine residual. If you use ultraviolet light to disinfect, it would be a UV reading. So these would be things that you have to submit to the state that said, yeah, I did these every day, or I did this once a week, whatever is required by your permit. Then you have,
I'm assuming there's ranges that they need in order to be considered acceptable. Okay, got it.
Correct. There are ranges for all those parameters on a permit. Then your permit requires additional testing that needs to be done either on a monthly basis, twice a month, once a week. All the permits are different for every plant, but these would be tests like CBOD or TSS, total suspended solids, carbonaceous biological oxygen demand.
No, I'm not a scientist, so I
Yeah, so CBOD is the measurement of the depletion of oxygen by bacteria in the water. It's really a test to see how if you had a stream discharge, to see how the stream would react to the water going into it. Would your effluent water deplete the oxygen out of the stream, the receiving water? So these would be tests that you would need a bigger laboratory for.
Okay,
you need big laboratory equipment. So there would be some samples that would be sent out to a lab. In our case with this permit, I believe it's just once a month. You would send samples out, and these would be also submitted to the state with the samples that Sean would check every day. We send those out to the state for our compliance.
I'm sorry, you said every day you send them out?
No. So at the end of the month, you have till the end of the next month to report what happened in the previous month to the state. So you send one report to the state each month for each month.
So how long is Sean usually for an hour, or how long does he normally stay at the plant when he comes each day?
So a plant your size, if everything was just a normal day, I would probably say an hour and a half.
All right, so that's Sean. I'm assuming that's it, right? That's his daily day, or is it more
so? Some other things Sean would do would be, he'll do the daily testing. He'll record those numbers. We also fill out, which is another DEP requirement, is an operations log. So we would have a log book there, which would show when Sean came, the date, the time he came, and then we write out a small paragraph about what happened that day. Normal day, plant was running good. We took all the basic tests, everything came back good. The effluent looks good leaving the plant. There were no mechanical problems. So we note that every day. So once he fills out the operator log, Sean, he's very meticulous. So he normally does one more lap around the plant before he leaves, just to make sure everything's buttoned up. And then off he goes.
John, are all those, is all the data collection and calculations manual? Or is there some automated?
So there is some we're looking at right now actually in investing in an automation software, which would, instead of the guys writing it on paper, they would actually be able to do it on a pad and enter that data, and we can actually see it live as it's happening.
That would be brilliant.
Yeah, so we're actually looking at investing in that software. It's called Bird's Nest software, which is specifically made for wastewater and water operations.
And that way I'm sure you could have, I don't know how sophisticated it is, but it could even be set up for things that are a little off that would alert you back at the office.
That's exactly what it can do. Okay. So you can, so we're actually looking into that technology right now. We're hopeful in the next month or two to actually.
No pressure, Mr. President, but get on it.
Look over at me on that one.
Get on it.
But I think you hit it on the key why we're looking at this, Donna, is it's immediately online. We have a regulatory compliance manager back in the office. Renee can see this. And so if there's a problem, Sean needs some guidance, he can call her or she'll see it online. And the thing is, if we can start to do this, you avoid trying to transcribe the numbers. I hear her office is next to mine. She'll call the guy up. Is this a 7 or is this a 4?
So that's his day, and I thought that was a really good question. Is it real, or everything we do in the labs? It's all automated. You just get it right into the system, and it has a big database, and it's all there. So what happens? So where does TJ fit in? Is Sean sick one day, and then TJ shows up?
So with all of our sites, and TJ may not be the only operator, but we believe in heavy cross training. Because we like to let our guys have good vacations, take vacations when they want them. Have weekends off when they want them. So TJ is what we would consider a relief operator. So when Sean would take a week's vacation, Sean likes to do a lot of stuff with racing. He likes to do a lot of car races and stuff like that. So when Sean would have a day off, TJ would be able to step in and do Sean's exact routine, the exact way Sean does it. So it's like we don't miss a beat. So that's where TJ would come in as a relief operator.
Okay, so where do you fit in that? So are you're oversight, but you're oversight I'm sure you're overseeing a lot of people. So you're
Right.
looking at their logs? You come into the plant? What does oversight mean for you?
Okay, so Sean is a direct report to me, and so is TJ. So what I provide for the operators is field support, which can be anything from ordering supplies, ordering chemicals from chemical vendors, setting up sludge hauling, coordinating lab sampling, things like that. I can also help Sean with process, not that he ever needs it. I'm just saying I have that ability for the operators if they run into an issue saying, hey, this looks a little different. What do you think? So
That's gonna be my next question. When something's going, so everything's going well, I'm sure it's very smooth and tight. Don't even have to talk to that much, right?
oh, I talk to him a couple times a day. Yeah.
All right, good, all right.
Yeah.
So, but when something's wrong,
Yeah.
what's the process then? You're the phone call they make?
Yeah. So I'm for I have 5 full-time operators that work under me. I'm about to have a 6th full-time operator under me. And Sean would be one of those full-time operators. So they call me for anything they need, anything that I can help them with, I do. I also do visit the plants. I also come around and see them at the various sites. So I try to get around and see each plant at least 2 or 3 times a month. So I'm out and about. I only spend about half my time in an office. The other half is out on the road.
Okay, so what if they get a big, so I'm seeing the names like Rick here. I'm sorry. I'm seeing names like Rick and David Friedman. Is there, do you bring them in when there's a big problem or where is like it's really big? We got a big problem here.
So I'll just quickly, so obviously you met Pete, he's the president. Dave Friedman is the vice president. What kind of separates us a little bit from some of our competitors that also do contract operations is we have our own in-house maintenance department. So we have 3 full-time maintenance guys, electrician, mechanical guy, and kind of a hybrid mechanical electrical guy. So Rick Weller is our director of maintenance. So at any municipal authority, if we have a big breakdown, what we do is we go to the client and say, how would you like us to handle this? Would you like us to facilitate this repair for you? Or, hey, maybe this is something that we can't do. Should we bring in a bigger company like MGK to do a repair?
So that's an interesting move, but I want a situation where you tell me I don't want it to break down. I want to know something's not right. We got to get ahead of it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, who does that? Who's going to be saying, like, I'm thinking Sean's going to be there every day.
Yep.
He's saying, okay, remember that blower or whatever is running 2 hours and you still only run 30 minutes. Like, who's going to make sure that they have that sense of what's coming our way so we can prepare for it and not, because we can't afford to have this thing shut down.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, so that's me. Again, yeah, I wear many hats at EEMA. So I coordinate, repairs. I look at the data logs. Sean lets me know instantly when something is different than it was the day before, and we get on top of things very quickly, I'm gonna
get back some time. Go ahead, go get
Speaking of, I guess where Donna was heading was, we have a monthly meeting that there's a requirement to present at the monthly meeting, I guess, the activity. I don't think we discussed whether that would be in person or just a report that comes in, but what were you planning on for that?
Well, we do both. So if you have a monthly authority meeting where you would like me to present the monthly report, I'd be more than happy to do that. It's not a problem. We do work with other townships or municipalities or authorities or boroughs that just want our report. And our reports are pretty detailed and they're customized to your facility. So something that you would see on our monthly report would be an operations column, which would list, any of the operational activities we did for the month, anything that was out of ordinary for the month, something that may need to be done infrequently. Would list any of the preventative maintenance we did, and then all your plant data.
And as I said before, I'd be looking for recommendations. Like, hey, I would like observations. Everything looks good. And then it's like, no, it doesn't, but don't just tell me it doesn't. Tell me what you suggest we do about it. And Stan, you're not going anywhere, right? So you would be part of this conversation. Because like I said, we don't know this, right? So, but we cannot afford for this thing to break down. And we can't afford for us to get to a situation where we're like totally caught off guard. This is government. We don't move that fast, right?
But Donna, I think you've seen, we sort of have a buildup of redundancy. You asked who Jeff Grassley is. Jeff Grassley is my operations manager. He operates one facility north of Reading, and the rest of the time he's in his vehicle visiting plants. Mostly unannounced, so that, and he's a process expert. He's a chemical treatment expert, very good, a lot of experience. And he just checks in. John would have a more regular schedule to come in. Rick Weller, he says, our maintenance guy. One of our maintenance guys lives in Gap. So if we have a problem, we call Pete, say, stop in and look at this.
Well, that goes to another question, because I work as a contractor, so I love to bill hourly. So what does it mean? I mean, are we paying for every time someone shows up? Because I know right now we have we bill him he bills us by the hour, right? So, I mean, I know we have a number of, I thought it was $2,800, I could be wrong, whatever. $2,800. So does that include all these, are you guys checking in, or every time you guys do something, so like yours, we're gonna get billed for it?
Everything is included in $2,800 unless we go whoever the contact person is and say, we have a problem here, we need to bring an independent person in, and that's going to cost you.
So it's above and beyond. There's truly a problem.
So the preventative maintenance is included in our price, which is things like oil changes, belt changes, filter changes for the equipment to keep the equipment running and to keep it in good shape. Breakdowns and things like that, where we would have obviously, but if something were to break, we have maintenance personnel on staff that can do repairs on wastewater plants.
Separate cost, and that makes sense. It's like getting your car fixed.
Correct.
In your quote, there's a section that says agreement and subcontracted services. There's about 6 things. 5 of those are things that we're not familiar with, right? The last one just says utility cost.
That's the thing with utilities, right?
Right. That's us, yeah, right? But the first 5, like, how often does that happen? I can read you the numbers if you want. The first one says influent and effluent sampling can be provided at a subcontracted service at 10% markup. Groundwater monitoring sampling can be provided at a subcontracted service at 10% markup. Sludge removal can be provided with blah, blah, blah. Drip field crop maintenance can be provided, and chemicals can be provided. So all those 5 things, does that always happen, or is that when something goes wrong, we need that?
So the sampling, like I said, your normal sampling is once a month with a subcontracted lab. The 2 big ones in this area are Suburban Water Testing Labs and MJ Ryder. So that would be monthly. Your monitoring.
That's in addition, right?
Yeah, if we took care of all these things for you, that's how we would handle it. If we were your one-stop solution, you had one bill coming to you and it was from us, and it included everything for the wastewater treatment plant minus utilities. That's how we, yeah.
Is it fair to characterize those 5 or 6 items as simply a cost plus type billing arrangement?
Yeah. Yes.
So I think that's the groundwater monitoring. How often is that? Is that once a month?
So that's quarterly. That's quarterly. I would say the projected cost for that is probably about $4,000 a year, give or take, for your monitoring well sampling.
Go back to the lab fees for the influent effluent. How much is that about a month, you know, or how much a year?
That would be about $560 a month. Yeah. So sludge removal, again, if we look at how we're starting with so little homes and with what the folks at Arweco telling me that would be very infrequent, that may only be about once a year. Especially at first with starting with not a full build out. At a full build out, I anticipated about $3,000 per year.
This is crop.
Do you mind reminding us how many homes are there now, and then how many are we hoping will be there?
I'm not sure about the now part. I know it's 32 total units.
All right.
I think there might be 3 or 4 homes there now, Dave.
I can clarify. There's currently 12 homes that are occupied and flowing. There will be a total of 38 when it's all built out.
30. Okay. Okay.
Yep. Keep them coming. Someone said crop maintenance. So our permit requires that the drip field cover be be 6 to 8 inches or not to exceed 8 inches. I'd have to look back, but I believe that's what it says, Stan.
Yes.
So what we would need to do is every time we get to that 8-inch mark, we'd have to, come in and have it cut.
So is that the township, or is that something you're responsible for?
You could absolutely do that. That would be. It's your preference.
That's our choice.
It's your preference.
Jeff, all these things we just mentioned are our choice.
You know,
we
if
could do all these things
Yep.
ourselves if we wanted to, but
Absolutely. So if you have the staff that maybe already does cutting in the township and they can do that, that would be great.
It's just, once again, based on your expertise and experience, it's more than just cut, like, it's not like cutting the lawn out back here, right? This is like, we can't screw this up, right?
You're limited on the weight.
Yeah.
Just gonna say it's the weight of the equipment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Correct.
This is your baby. You don't want to this thing.
No, taking that tube up, that's not a good.
If I can cut in, like Jim said, you can do any of these. I mean, we can arrange with Ryder and have them bill you. The only codicil we have is if they bill us and then we have to bill you, we add 10%, just because administrative cost, insurance cost. But all of these items we could do for you. We don't want to do the utilities because the electric company doesn't like to deal with anybody except the owner.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys know this or if you even care, but the way this is set up, the township doesn't pay for this. It's the residents are going to pay for this. And so in our heads, we're trying to, I mean, this is not a minor expense for the residents. And so that's why we're just trying to get our heads around what it's gonna cost them. And of course, it's gonna go up over time because life goes, prices, they're not gonna go down.
and especially early on when you got 1/3 of the homes paying for the whole thing.
Well, Lexington will help us out. So some of this is on there.
And that was another question I wanted to ask. Do we know how much the residents are paying per house now?
Oh, nothing.
0 right now.
Ouch.
Because
We're not doing anything.
there's not a functioning wastewater treatment plant right now. So the pump and haul costs. That's absorbed by Keystone.
Okay, so they're not paying anything right now.
Correct. The residents are paying 0 right now for wastewater disposal.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a shock, but.
Ouch.
And see, we do not have an active, what I call road crew or mowing crew. Everything here is contracted out.
So yeah, if you're a landscaping contractor feels comfortable and he can abide by, like Dave said, the weight limit, maybe using what they call those turf tires or something like that, that spreads the weight out.
Are you telling us we go?
Or Dave, yeah, Dave may have a recommendation.
Right now, the gentleman that's been doing it is a farmer that's right in the area. And I know what he charges, and it's right around $400 per cut. But and there's no way to put how many times you're gonna have to do it a year, because it all depends on the rain. As long as you're under that 8 inch, you don't go over that 8 inches, you're fine. That's when it gets to that point.
I know you can't, but approximately, is it like 4 times, 5
We've
times?
cut it, we've cut it about 4 times already. Yeah.
We have other questions.
I had a question on the operator. How do you determine overtime? Because just because it's listed out here that 65 an hour for the operator and then 97.50 an hour overtime, 65 and then 97.50 for overtime. So what's considered overtime?
Yeah, I mean, if someone has to come in at 3 o'clock on Saturday morning because there's an emergency there, we're gonna have to pay him overtime. But if and that's an alarm, but if it's an alarm call and he just has to come in and reset the pump, turn it back on, that's included in the $2,800. I mean, answering the alarms, doing, as John said, preventing maintenance, that's included in $2,800. The rates are there, and this is something that happens down the road. As Donna said, this is new for you. Well, East Brandywine Township, the first plant we did 12 years ago was new for them. They didn't have a sewer authority. And so we're very careful of how we put this in here, because 12 years later, they're starting to have to fix things. And generally, they come to us to fix it or to know whether we got to go outside. So those numbers.
It's just a matter of clarity.
Yeah.
Because we get something in the bill and we're like, what is this? We'll know now. Right?
Yeah.
Now. So it's more like after hours stuff.
Yeah, it would be, you'd be surprised. It always seems to happen on midnight on a holiday is when something breaks. Things just notoriously like that. And that's what the overtime is for.
Right. Gotcha.
I hate to speak for them, but just because we have a number of stations that we contract with operators here in Delaware. They know when to go to a call that is an emergency. They won't just go if it's a phantom alarm. They know when it's needed.
I don't understand. Who are you contracted with?
We're contracted through Keystone. So we built this plant for Keystone.
Right. So now what, if anything goes wrong, I don't understand don't you just go away? Like you built?
No,
I don't want you to, but I'm just wondering, like you did your job, you on the hook for?
We're on the hook for a year or 18 months, depending on what it is. So we're on the hook.
Because you're linked with Keystone.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. Okay. And I talk to these guys Stan multiple times a week, these guys, same thing. So we're there. And if there's something we're responsible to take care of, we'll do it.
Well, didn't you guys just put in the new tank?
Absolutely. Not the frac tank.
Yes.
We hooked it up.
Okay.
Keystone put it in. We took apart.
But there was a new tank.
That's correct.
We
built the entire plant. We did the fields. We did everything. So yeah.
I can't believe you don't have any questions. You got to have questions.
I do. I got a few. But I've been listening to the conversation, so it's been interesting. So we've got 12 houses on that site right now. That's probably under capacity for this unit. We're going to get up to 3 dozen, a little over 3 dozen when we're all done. As we move through and start really adding flow through this unit, what kind of failures are you anticipating, or what kind of issues do you anticipate as we start adding houses and adding flow through this unit? Let me rephrase it. Maybe not that you don't anticipate failure. It's what do you look for? What are the warning signs? That's probably a better way to say it.
Okay, I will say that on startup, the plant, it does have 2 phases. So you can run half the plant initially with lower flow, which does help with your loading. Eventually, as more homes come on and we get closer to the full build out, we'll bring the full plan online, the second half. As far as I never really try to the failure thing is tricky. This Orweco system does not have a lot of mechanical moving parts, which is a good thing. You know, I hope it was chosen for its simplicity and low maintenance costs. It is what it really seems to me. The pieces of equipment that
I think it was chosen because it was cheaper to build, but I don't know if it turned out to be that way in the end.
I mean,
wait. The engineer, Hebert engineer, I don't know how many of Fred's plants we've operated. He really picks the design for the flow you have. If you were up over 50,000 gallons a day, you have a different design. His favorite is what we call a sequencing batch reactor. And how many of his SBRs do we operate? There's one coming online in Wallace Township that's at 55,000 gallons a day. Just happens to be with these guys, but that's not an Orweco type plant. And like I said, the Orweco people come in from Oregon. So, and originally this system was if you were out in the country and you had a big house, you'd have one of these. It simply can handle the flow from one house because it's all fixed film bacteria. And without getting into the sewage treatment technology, there's what they call activated sludge and there's fixed film. When you have a system that's going to start at 8 houses or 12 houses and go up to 38, you want some type of fixed bacteria. And that's why this system is sort of ideal for the smaller flows.
It's also, you said,
correct. Yeah. A lot of activated sludge plants rely heavily on blowers, big blowers, which are energy inefficient. They suck up a lot of energy. This plant does not use blowers of that type. There's 2 small regenerative blowers that just put a little puff of air out every now and again. Most of the other treatment is fans and small pumps, not very expensive pumps. So I looked at the system pretty extensively and I didn't see a lot of big ticket items that I would be nervous about. These are simple things to fix or replace that aren't very costly.
So let me maybe rephrase the question. When you've seen these systems fail, can you describe, or maybe can you describe a situation where these systems might fail and you might have to come in and do a repair or what have you? What kinds of failure mechanisms do you see?
With this type of system, the failures that I would see that would be probably your most common would be some type of pump failure. Which is usually the most common type of failure in a wastewater treatment plant. Just because pumps, they're in the water all the time, 24/7. They work usually continuously, especially on a plant like this that recirculates water over and over and over again for treatment. You know, your pumps are going to run a lot. So I would say if I had to guess, that would be the most common type of failure that you would have. Now, I do believe the plant comes with a few spare pumps that I saw there, which is good. You know, we put them in storage and hope it's a long, long time before we need them. Biologically, with fixed film, like Pete says, it's a very simple system and it's an old system. I mean, this is newer technology, but the basic principle has been around for a long time. Fixed films were one of the first types of plants that I know of, really. I mean, we operate one up in the Poconos that's over 100 years old, and it started off with rocks as media, so just basic rocks. So the idea has been around for a long time. This is kind of a new take on it. I was told the cloth media will last for a very, very long time. They have not actually worn out any cloths yet that they've been using since they developed this system. So biologically, it's not a problem. Occasionally, and it's never happened to me, but someone will dump a bottle of old oven cleaner down the drain, and you may have a biological upset where you lose some of your biomass, your biology in the plant. And really the only thing for that is to, give it time to build new biomass. So occasionally plant will get that. I've never seen that happen, but it does happen. But mechanically, I'd say pumps, biologically, there's not really a lot that can mess these up.
So the pump goes bad, right? Is this something Sean says, okay, let me go in the back room and get a pump, or does he have to call somebody and get it fixed?
So for that, it depends on the pump, but it would probably be something above what Sean would be doing because it involves electrical wiring. So we would want someone that has electrical knowledge. Now, luckily, oftentimes with pumps, you can start to see them going bad over time. You can start to see the hours.
Surprises.
So again, we'll go back to that pump ran an hour a day. Well, now it's running an hour and a half every day. And then now it's running 2 hours every day. So you can maybe see that something is starting to go wrong. The pumps you have are small. They're well pump style pumps. They're not really rebuildable. They're too inexpensive to be cost effective to be rebuilt. But the good thing is they're a very common type pump, and there's a lot of pump distributors around here where you can get pumps same day, maybe within a day or two. And again, the plant has spares. There's also redundancy in the system. So if a pump would fail, you could maybe shift a few things around, turn some valves and use another pump that's already there to do the same job till you can fix it. That's all built into the plant.
But if there is a pump failure, I mean, the plant's nothing's gonna happen in like a day. Like a day, it could sit there for a day without something running, right?
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
Plus you have the spare. Or
There's redundancy built in the plant, and you have spares, and you have distributors that are hopefully carrying those pumps.
Right. But it's not like if a pump goes, it's not like all hands on deck. We got to get out there. It's no, nothing like that. Right. It's not a big deal. Okay.
What's the expected lifespan for this system? Did you hear? I don't know if you guys hear me there.
Wow. Honestly, that is a tough one, but I do know that these are what I've been told by our design engineer. I mean, Stan can maybe add to this, but about a 30 to 50 year is where we're at. And if they're well maintained and serviced, you get more out of it.
So I guess this is probably not a question for you guys, but it just kind of occurred to me. There's only a finite amount of space on this property. If a drip field fails, or I know that I'm just thinking about when I bought my house, we had to find another place to put the drip field because the original field failed. Where does it go? Where do we put it? If in 30 years, I mean, again, this is a future problem, but I know there were some issues trying to find locations for this. This goes belly up. What happens? What kind of system do you have to put in?
This is 5 acres, right?
Yeah, I thought there was a spare field.
Utilized.
There's a spare field.
There's a spare field.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me jump in. Donna's correct. There is a lot set aside on the land development plan that is reserved just for a replacement drip irrigation field. Perfect. And it will sit there unless and until it's ever needed. If the field itself, if there were to be problems with the field itself, I mean, there could be degradation and problems with the drip tubing, some of the controls, but that field would not necessarily be unusable unless it became so saturated it was no longer able to absorb the wastewater. So we could be having problems with the drip field requiring component changes, but not necessarily kicking into requiring the replacement area at the same time.
Great, thank you.
I have two stupid questions probably. We're all on wells. Where's the water coming from for these houses?
Chester Water Authority.
So, okay, so you got the water coming in. Are they paying for the water? Uh-huh. Now, these are big, huge houses. Is there enough room on each one of these lots to have a pool? Because if they want to put in a pool, does that affect all this too?
I'm not familiar with the lot layouts and the townships
Okay.
grading permitting for that. So, I mean, yeah, it is tight. I would speculate that there would be situations where a large pool might be very difficult, but I can't say with certainty for any of the lots out
Does it
there.
mess up these guys, the wastewater treatment plant?
No.
Does a pool affect any of this? I'm just.
I was gonna say, Dave, when did this get put in? Because this is way before my time here.
We, May of 22 is when we started
Oh,
the
okay.
fields.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all. I didn't know if it was put in 10 years ago. It's been sitting
No,
there all
no,
this time.
now, the temporary system definitely was.
Right, okay.
But we started the fields May of 22.
All right.
So you got Dave? It's quiet.
I'm looking through my list here, and I think most of my questions have been answered. I guess there's one more. Again, this is an industry I'm not very familiar with, and so I guess a question. It's a kind of a common interview question. How do you see your firm separating itself from other firms that we might talk to?
Well, I will say that
I'll answer that one, John.
Oh, okay. All right, Pete.
Because we're the best.
Yes.
As Fred Ebert said to me when we were on the first or second training, he said, "You guys have really been hot. You're getting all the work around here." And I
But
said,
not too much. See, that's the problem.
"Well, you can't if you have the proper organization and you have the proper people that have the training." I said, "I've been doing this for 50 years. This is the third contract operations company that I put together. Only this one I own. Been doing this one for 20 years. We're in the process of doing an employee stock ownership that will keep it going. And we're not looking to grow. Some of the other ones were like in 8 states. We're down, like I said earlier, have a plant in Arkansas. I don't think Halliburton or us know how to get out of it. We call it the Dick Cheney Memorial System because he bought it for him. He didn't know he had it, and they don't know what to do with it. So, I mean, it's a loyal, it's a standalone system. We know the people, we know the regulatory people, and the management is by having people go out there and do the quality control.
If I could add to this, so I am the person that got all the quote proposals together from operators. There's 2 one that was there. There's a few that I would not go to, and I didn't even include their numbers. Now, I'm really hard on people. These guys are the most loyal, they follow through on what they're supposed to do. I get nothing out of this. This all goes to you guys. So, but I care about, that's what I care about my company. And so with that being said, I want to come back in 5 years and 10 years and see it in the same shape it was when I turned it over to you guys. So I take a lot of pride in that. We do as a company. So I trust these guys. And again, I'm not making any money off of it. I pushed them along to Keystone and stand for you guys. So I can really, tell you that these guys, what they do, similar products or systems like this, similar to this treatment plant, they do a great job.
So I'm 1 of 5, but what I'm looking for, I'm not looking for the cheapest.
Absolutely.
I'm looking for the people that if I got a problem, I can pick up the phone. It won't be me, it'll be poor Jeff. And I get someone who's going to answer the phone and say, we're on it.
Mhm.
And what even would be better is that I never have a problem because you guys are so on top of it and saying, look, we've picked up that this blower's not doing, so this pump's a little off. We need to replace it and we're on top of it. That would be even better. And I would rather have somebody who does that. It may cost us a little bit of money because it's like we might be replacing the pump before it actually dies. but things are moving smoothly. The whole idea here is to keep things moving smoothly.
What I like about these guys is, as an operator, what I have seen them do, I witnessed firsthand that I don't get the calls from them that I get from my other two operators. They will do the work. They will take care of the little things rather than call me at 1 o'clock in the morning, because I get the calls to say, hey, Dave, I'm having this problem. I need your guys out here. They will just do it and tell me what the problem was. And they will call me then afterwards to say, you know what, we can't do it. We need your help. But they will do everything they can to fix it before I get there. So I like that.
And Donna, how that'll work with you is what you're going to find out about if one of John's little regenerative blowers went out and Sean had to fix it. It'll be in the monthly report.
No surprises.
Yeah.
There's
And
no
you'll know
surprises.
about it.
Yeah.
You know, we're very good at communicating with our clients. Sean is excellent at communication with the clients.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to see it in the monthly report as much as, and that would be good, but I would like maybe a email or something to say, look, we had to replace the pump. Yeah, as opposed to if everything's going fine, then you just run your report. But if something need to be done, or you think there's a problem, then get us an email or this man is always on, so you just tell him what's going on and we.
Yeah, normally what we do is we have a point of contact and we'll run things through that.
Yeah,
you know, and
that'd be
if it's nice, because then, you know, that message will come out to everyone, you know, and that's how we like to run it.
And what I meant by that is if we change the blower and everything's just going along, you know, if Jeff wants, we can notify him, but it'll be in the report along with the request to replace the blower.
Right.
I mean, it's just not that major an issue that has to be handled immediately.
Yeah. Preventative maintenance. Yeah. Yep.
And when I said earlier, because we're the best, I mean, we've gotten several jobs in the area here that, well, Longwood's contract isn't signed yet, but we're probably going to be taking over the utility system.
We don't.
You're giving up. Tell her you're giving up the job to go.
We don't lose clients. We've picked up a lot of clients that our competitors have lost over the last 5 years.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
How long, has your company grown, the 55 employees or whatever you say you had? Has it grown or has it been pretty steady?
We started with 5.
20 years ago? Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a very selective process. Like I said, John's been part of it. We get resumes in, we screen them, and then we have our favorite Red Robin restaurant over in Exeter, where 5 or 6 of us sit with the guy and talk to him before we hire him. And that's not a foolproof system. I mean, he's still basically on probation for the first year. Better yet, a lot of the part-time people we have is sort of a probationary period. If they're really good.
Right. Yeah, a lot of our part-timers, our part-timers, a lot of them, you know, they'll moonlight from other companies or other municipalities. And then if it works out, we bring them on.
So John, can I have you sign something that says you're not going anywhere?
I'm not going anywhere. This guy won't let me. He won't let me.
So you gotta get this computer system up and you gotta keep John on. Yeah.
Jed's office is right below me. He ain't going nowhere.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm very happy at this company. It's a really good company to work for, and it's a really good company to work with.
Donna, we've had one problem in like the last 3 or 5 years. And I know I said to somebody, this got to end. And he said, well, I've done this and this. I said, well, in 50 years, this will be the 3rd person I've found. We're very loyal. If a person wants to do the job, we put him in a position where he can succeed. I truly believe that if you love what you do, you never go to work a day in your life.
That's about proper training. It's about not overextending.
Yeah.
That's why I'm worried about.
Not the right people.
Yeah.
I'm just worried.
I'm just worried about these people that have been paying zero and now they're going to be paying, I don't know. I mean, are we?
Stan's gonna give us a number. Well, it's the reality. It's just.
Don, I look at it the opposite way. They've got it free for how many, the ones that have been there, they got it free for all this time. Now it's time. No, it's not free for you.
You can.
If I were looking for a home, I don't think I'd be moving there. That's all I'm saying. I just,
But you're with us.
I am totally with us. Yes.
Maybe if you're the 38th home, yeah.
Yeah.
138th is better.
We'll check out our model before you say that.
Really?
The
Yeah.
houses are beautiful. I mean, the houses are beautiful. I'm just worried about going from 0 to 1,000 a month or whatever. I don't know, but I'm just.
So one last thing that I had is, I would, this is only for me, maybe if you guys agree or disagree, but I think maybe the first couple months, you would come in person so we could talk. Yeah, we could talk. Oh, yeah, you could go Zoom too. You don't have to be, but we could talk about things that come up, and there's gonna be new things for us too.
You gotta teach us.
And then if it's just running like smoothly, just send in the report. You don't even have to dial in probably. For the most part.
You should even do the planned tour.
Yeah, that would be nice. We would do that. Yeah, I would do that.
Let you appreciate, understand a little bit more.
Go to the model first.
Yeah, I think what we'd like to do is, one of the first meetings is invite you out for a plane tour. Because once you see it, it's so much easier when we say this little thing. And yeah, John isn't, I'll probably be here. We like to do this. We like to talk about all this. Excuse me?
It costs money.
To have us come to meetings? No.
You know what charge us?
No, we come to your monthly meeting. Good ones.
I mean,
we're pretty successful.
I would charge if I was.
You're a good group. We love coming here.
all right. So I think I have all my questions answered. Anybody else have anything else? No, we're good. All right. Well, I guess I'll thank you, gentlemen, for coming and taking our questions. Like Donna has said, this is all very new to us. I think this is the only type of facility we have in the township like this. So we want to make sure that we do it right and we do the right thing by our residents. So thank you for coming in and answering our questions. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Okay. So it looks like we can now move to public comment as we wrap up. I don't know if there's any more discussion in the room that we might want to have on Lexington Point before we move to public comment.
Yeah, I would like to make a comment.
Okay, great.
We're just clearing the room, Dave.
Great. Just
So Stan, they were, John was impressive.
Yeah.
Pete he's just older, but nothing, John was the guy who impressed me. But, and also the gentleman who built the plant was impressive in the sense that he was very much, but I still would like to get your sense, and I don't know if it's at this meeting or another meeting, about the other places, other folks that they looked at. And if you tell me this is the best, then I will back off, because like I said, John was that impressive. But it would be good, just for due diligence, if you could maybe just summarize what you found out about the other.
Sure, and it was just a couple hours before this meeting that I did get copies of the two other proposals, so I've not had a chance to really look at them, but I'll do that and follow up to the board with thoughts about what's there, to give you some perspective.
Yeah, and I guess that would be great, because I'd like to hear specifically what those other two proposals are. But at a very high level, when you look at these kinds of firms, are they all very similar, and there's not a lot of differentiation? Or do you see big differences between these kinds of outfits?
I mean, the services they need to provide are of necessity similar. But, there are some differences in the, one of the things that I heard come up a lot of times tonight is the crucial ongoing, communication. Nobody wants to deal with a company. They want to pick up the phone, hey, John, or whoever, something's going on. There are some larger companies that maybe don't have that personal touch, if you will. But there are other smaller companies that do. I think one of the benefits of, I guess, what I'll call a mid-sized company, maybe EMA, for one of a better way of describing it. Yeah. They do obviously have to have multiple people on staff. Folks want to take vacations, folks get sick. So, very small firms sometimes won't have a real deep bench in the event something comes up and they don't have the license, they don't have qualified people to call in right away. These folks obviously do, so that's a good thing. But no, I mean, I think mostly it's it comes down to the quality of their services. The specifically what they have to do is very prescribed by DEP. Every operator, to keep their license, they have to tick those boxes. But the way they go about it, the communications to the township, the assistance that they might provide to the township, that's going to, of course, vary with each firm. These folks seem to be doing a very good job.
Yeah, as I said before, I didn't mean this. I want the guy who's not just going to do his checklist, but going to say, look, there's something not right with that pump, or there's something, it's just, and then call John, do something, just one who's always looking ahead.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. Not just the checklist is the easy part, but looking for what's not wrong, what doesn't feel right. Now, maybe it's fine for today, but I got this weird feeling.
Yeah, and I think we're the board to decide to hire EAM or somebody else. Monthly reports at a minimum I think are crucial to just fill you in, not just on the routine stuff. Yeah, that's great to know, just to make sure everything's staying on track, but those things that might not be routine, and maybe it's not an emergency, maybe it's not a problem, but it's a recommendation. Hey, we've noticed something might be going a little bit off here. Here's what we think you ought to do, or we're going to continue to monitor it and we'll reach out to you. Checking all those things every month, we're having an opportunity for the board to review that, and you could provide some operators some feedback. Hey, we'd like a little bit more discussion about this. Maybe we don't need so much about that. After the first couple months, we can start getting reports, see what really communicates what the board feels like they need to know each month.
Yeah, I think Jim made a really good suggestion. Bring them in. If we don't need them, we don't bring them. But for the first couple months, as we learn, it would be nice to have them on a Zoom or.
Yeah, and it's kind of related to that. There's anytime there's a new plant starting up, there's, despite everybody's best efforts, and they had a really good contractor out there, NGK, Dave was representing tonight. Despite everybody's best efforts, you build this relatively large plant with a lot of components, however simple operationally may end up being. There's going to be hiccups. We're going to flip things on. We're going to run a few days. Oh, shoot, this needs to be tweaked. That needs to be changed, whatever it is. There is there's a 90-day, what I'll call shakedown period. I guess the agreement between the township and the developer calls it a startup period. But the goal of that is to have the operator work closely with the township, with us, on a more regular basis than they would once things have kind of hit their stride and are operating more regularly. They're regularly reporting in, checking, hey, here's what we found, here's what might need to be tweaked a little bit. So we're kind of getting, ideally, if there's problems, we're able to get everything tweaked and trued up before that period ends. And that would be that would all have to be done before the township took over operational control. So everything is still under Keystone's control at that point as we're going through that process.
Stan, I think the other thing too, this is speaking more to Dawn's concern. We owe it to the residents that, you know, we see a couple other quotes at least and say, this is the best one and this is why.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're gonna have a big nut to pay every quarter.
I mean, there's no way to make community sewage systems like this inexpensive. They're, you know, there's in broad strokes, there's individual septic systems, there's big public sewer systems, and there's community sewage systems like this. Community sewage systems are always the most expensive option. Economy of scale, it's just the way it works out.
Are these systems ever insured? I mean, what if there's a natural storm, earthquake, lightning? I mean, what happens if something disastrous happens and it goes down?
Yeah, I mean, the township, you know, we would anticipate the township would be carrying insurance on it. I'm not an insurance guy, so I can't speak to the particulars on that, but but I mean, that's one of those costs that would go into an operation budget. There's a lot of things that might not jump out at first. I mean, we all think, okay, you have to pay an operator, you have to pay the electric bill, you have to.
I mean, look at the storms we've been having and the damage that we've had in the last week from all the storms.
I mean, never having done this before, Stan, but I would like at some point when you're out to try and have H.A. Thompson come out and look at this facility with you and I, just so they can see it firsthand.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
That's one of the I think more significant things that are still out there that Keystone owes the township is a detailed accounting of all of these things. You know, all of the costs that you total them up would end up resulting in a user fee out there in the fee to each of those residents. You know, the monthly operator cost is obviously one of them, but you know, there's additional things. You're gonna have to have assumptions for emergency calls, assumptions for those other things. Yeah, there's a long list of other things that maybe don't jump out quite so much, and adding all of that up is Keystone's job to, you know, of course, we'll review that in detail, and there may be some back and forth before we recommend that the board actually take a look at this, but all of that process is still in front of us. So, yeah.
That's what I was wondering, if there's a certain cost, but then we put some padding in it for
Do we have to add padding to it, or does it really?
A little bit, not, I would say a lot.
What do we do if we don't spend it?
When I think it would just go, but when I think it's not really padding, but you're gonna have to think about, okay, when they make like capital equipment things that can break down.
Don't we just put it in the next quarter's bill?
You don't want to do that to people. You want to get,
So
you want to create a bill that.
Are we able to build up a reserve?
I hope so. I hope we can build up a reserve.
Yeah, actually, you already have a pretty good reserve. There's a capital reserve funding component of the agreement between the township and the contractor. They had, don't quote me on this, I think it was something in the order of $200,000 already in that account when they proposed the current wastewater treatment plant design and went through working with Land Macro some changes to the agreement. But right now they are submitting a check, a big lump sum check with each and every building permit application they bring to the township, which just goes into that fund as a capital reserve fund. The way it was, those costs were set up, were some pretty detailed spreadsheets, and I'll try not to describe it with too much detail, but in essence, it's okay. Here's all the things that might go bad. Here's what they cost today. We think they're, you know, this one's might need to be replaced in 20 years, this one 30 years. Okay, at that point, that's what they're going to cost. We track it all.
John always talks about that. That's just that's what companies do.
Yeah.
So does the capital reserve get transferred to us?
Yeah, it's your money. Yeah.
It is ours.
It's already an account that you're holding. Yeah.
I'm sure Melissa, I don't know if she's still on, but she'll put it in Lexington Point Fund, because it's really their money. I mean, it's for this work. It's for this.
Are they gonna have?
Yes. Yeah.
Stan, do we know how much this plant costs to put in?
Million plus, right?
I don't know the final numbers. I would.
Really, that much?
But it was a million.
Oh, that's more than that. I would guess something on the order of $4 million.
Really?
What?
Really? I thought it was a no.
for everything. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And this was cheaper for him. All right, whatever. All right, David, what do you
All
want to
right,
say?
we're gonna bring it home.
You have to bring it home. Yeah.
All right. So thank you, Stan. I appreciate the work you're putting in on this. This is great. I know we keep asking you to come into these meetings and answer all our questions, so I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
All right.
We are learning as we go.
Yeah, this is.
We
All
are.
right. Well, thank you. So now we go to our second public comment. This public comment can include comments on anything attendees may want to share. Commenters must state their name and whether they are a township resident or a taxpayer of the township. Do we have any public comments? All right, not hearing any. I make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting at 8:34 p.m. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
That's your
Thank
job.
you, Jim. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No,
All
don't.
right, motion carries 5-0. Good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night.
See you, Dave.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Guy. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy.